Today we have a video that I've wanted to do for a very long time, but over the last few years I haven't really had most of my cars with me to film this video, and this has been a highly requested video for a very long time, so I'm doing my best to pull it off today. So what we're going to be going over today is a pretty in-depth walk around of my whole entire collection at the moment. For those that watch the channel very closely, you know that we are missing a few cars here, and there are a few cars overseas that are going to be excluded from this tour, but this is going to be my US car collection minus 1 or 2 cars right now, but we'll get to those in just a little bit. So as I said, this is going to be a pretty informal walk around. I just want to walk to every car, talk about my favorite features, my favorite memories, and what every purpose is, because it's kind of ridiculous having this many cars, but it makes more sense to me, and I can justify it more to myself and Sabrina when I tell myself that each car has its own job and its own duty that no other car can really replicate. Also, while we're filming this today, I gotta get a big shout out to Crispy because he's filming a video behind the scenes what we're doing, which I don't know if it's really a feature, but for those of you who watch Crispy, and if you don't, he'll be linked down below. So I'm gonna start with one of the most newest cars to the channel, and that is my 2017 Audi R8. Now this car we actually purchased from auction. We bought it crashed, salvage title for 79 grand, and we rebuilt the car in the last 3 months or so. This car is really unique to me because I only bought this car because I drove Sheepy Race's twin turbo R8. It was like 1100 to 1200 horsepower, and it was the craziest experience I've ever felt in a street car. And I was like, wow, that car can be like that. I'm gonna buy that car. And I think literally the next week I picked up this Audi R8. I was looking at getting an Huracan and a few other cars, and ended up just snagging the R8 because they're very similar cars. And as you see on the channel, this is half the price of an Huracan, so it's half off. My favorite sounds really good. Half off. Half off. My favorite thing about this car is it's actually the best exotic daily ever. If you were a person who wanted an exotic, but you didn't want something that would beat you up and was unreliable and was very comfortable, had a great sound system, had storage pockets, had cup holders, had a frunk with tons of room, and had the exotic feel, that's exactly what the R8 is. I've really fallen in love with this car in the last month or two because it honestly took me off guard. It does everything really well. It doesn't do anything primarily better than anything else in its class. It's not the fastest car. It's not the most fun car to drive. It's definitely not the flashiest car. It doesn't take first place in any of those categories, but it nearly takes second or third place in any category you could possibly give it, which to me, overall makes this car one of the best cars you could possibly own if you wanted to daily drive a car. The miles per gallon is good, the interior is good. I got lucky with this spec because we have the Alcantara diamond stitch headliner, Alcantara interior. We have the diamond stitch seats with the leather. We also have the carbon option. Rather than having the gloss carbon, we have matte carbon, which I think is a way cooler look, and it's just perfect. We also have the Bang & Olufsen, I'm gonna pronounce that wrong, but this is the craziest sound system I've ever heard in a car that comes from factory. It is absolutely amazing, and nothing has ever sounded better than this car ever has. So to me, this car's purpose just allows you to drive in a like exotic car, but never be uncomfortable with it. It's never a nuisance to drive. And I've always wanted to feel like Iron Man, so this car has literally fit the bill. It also has a V10 that is the same V10 in an Huracan, so the sound is phenomenal, and the tuning capabilities, as I told you guys, with the Audi R8 is insane. We're drawing kind of a crowd. People that work in the nearby buildings are coming out and taking photos and stuff. It's pretty cool. Just know that none of this video would have been possible without Crispy, because him and his team helped me pull out every single car. Calvin helped too, but we also had to clean most of all of them, which has been very difficult. This Supra we got last year right when it came out. The Supra means a lot to me, one, because the kit on the car is from Street Hunter, which, as you guys know, Street Hunter is our brand that we started last year, which is a new brand for automotive parts and lips, wide bodies, all that type of stuff. I was a part of the Supra project with Toyota a year before the car came out, so I guess it almost was like 2.5 years ago from this point. I got invited to go out in LA and see a 2020 Supra in like late 2018, I think it was. And me and a group of like maybe 15 other individuals in the automotive industry got to see the car for the first time, lined up with other cars that were in its competitive class that the car would have been like, you know, targeting against. And they pretty much asked us to walk around the car. We got to see inside the car. We got to ask a few questions like, is it gonna come in stick or auto, and what motors are gonna utilize, all that type of stuff. They weren't able to answer everything, but they were able to answer questions like, it's only gonna come in automatic, it's gonna utilize a B58 motor, stuff like that. We knew it was primarily BMW, but from that point on, when I got to see it, I wasn't allowed to talk about it because I signed an NDA and I knew I'd get a lot of trouble. So I kept my mouth shut. Because I got to see the car early, that's what kind of sprouted the idea of like, yo, I just saw this car before like the whole entire world. What if we started creating parts for this car? Like what if we like designed something and like found someone to make it X, Y, and Z? And it kind of planted the seed on doing a kit on this car before everyone else. Fast forward a year later, I like was on Toyota like crazy saying that like I want to pre-order one, I want to make sure I get one right when they come out. We ended up securing the first one in California.
Insane.
That's so awesome. That long since I've seen it. We need to fix that. And we're like one of the first people on the internet with the car, which is awesome. It's a launch edition. I'll show you the brand number once we get inside the car. But we got this super early on, and immediately after I saw the car, we eventually found the team to create Street Hunter. We started designing the car with the designer John Sabal. He's a legend in the automotive scene, and we worked for about 2 to 3 months on designing the kit and kind of getting the kit to fit exactly how I saw it in my head. When we hit SEMA of 2019, we brought this car and revealed the wide body kit to everyone, and it was a really big deal for me. One, because I've been working on the car forever, but two, it was the first car that Street Hunter ever launched a wide body kit for, and it's kind of what really kicked the brand off and blew up the Instagram and kind of got the notoriety what it was. And now we have hundreds of customers just for the super parts of Street Hunter. So this is launch number 718 out of 1500, and essentially what that means is the first 1500 VINs that came out with the Supra came in a launch edition. Now normally you would think launch edition means a bunch of extra real features that makes the car a lot more valuable, X, Y, and Z, and with this car not really. With launch edition you got the coral red seat interior, you got the launch edition carbon fiber right here with the number on it, you got red mirror caps, and you got black wheels. That's the only thing that launch edition came with. Will that in 10 years add value to this car? Probably not, because it's so insignificant, but it is so cool to me that it is a launch edition and it is more rare than a normal one, but it doesn't really mean too much. This car is a great daily driver. This car gets a lot of hate for reasons that I don't think it should. People are mad because they think it's a Z4 and that it's a BMW, but something that I've always said is like, since when did owning a BMW become bad? This car and the Mark IV Supra have a lot of things in common that I don't think a lot of people realize. One, they're both inline 6 turbo. They sound kind of similar once straight piped. They also make relatively the same amount of power given inflation for 1994 to today's time. And you can also get them to 600 horsepower on a stock motor fairly easy, which is what made the Supra so cool back then. The Supra wasn't a crazy handling car or anything. The Supra became famous because of the JZ motor, and this car has a lot of similarities with the B58 that the JZ has. So I would say that I'm like, yeah, it's a BMW inside, and it's all BMW parts, X, Y, and Z with Toyota engineering, but it is a great car, and they have a lot of similarities to the Mark IV. This car is also a little bit different since we had it at SEMA last year. It is now wrapped in a, I think it's, I'm gonna butcher it, I think it's like a blue raspberry color from 3M. I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something like a blue raspberry. And also since SEMA, we've kept the C106 HREs, but we've polished the lips and we changed the hardware from red to now black. Motor-wise, we have nothing done to this car yet, although I do have a big single turbo that we need to install, so we should be pushing close to 700 horsepower once we add port injection for more fueling. But at the moment, it's actually just tuned and it's making just over 400 wheel horsepower, which makes this car boogie. This car feels a lot faster than it really is, which makes this car a blast to drive. And also the automatic trans in the car is great. I think a lot of people don't like it because it's automatic. That's actually one of my favorite things about this car because it's a great transmission and it's a lot of fun. Also, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, which is Movement Watches. I've been working with Movement for almost 5 years now, and they offer tons of affordable watches, as well as now men's jewelry, men's eyewear, women's eyewear, and even one of my favorite products, which I wear all the time, which is their Everscroll glasses, and it has the blue tint technology, so you can save your eyes while working on the computer. I have, I think, close to 40 or 50 watches that I can wear when I'm going out to business, when I'm going casual, or my classic favorite gold and white mini watch. You can use code TJHunt and save up to 15% off of everything on movement.com. You can click the links down below, or better yet, just use code TJHunt at checkout. You can save money on everything. Do yourself a favor this holiday season and not only get something for yourself, but you can get something for your girlfriend, your dad, your mom, your family, your friends, or someone who just needs something nice. Click the links down below, and thank you so much for Movement for partnering with us over the last 5 years. We wouldn't be where we are today without you. I want to jump to the FD because I do believe that this is primarily everyone's favorite car that is on the channel. We bought this 2 or 3 years ago from essentially a junkyard. We bought it for $6,000 or $4,000, actually just 2 miles down the street from us. It was originally green, it was originally automatic, it was originally had tan pieces inside of it. The motor was destroyed and the car was full of dents. So when we started rebuilding this, we wanted to change everything and take every nut and bolt off. That's essentially what we did. My biggest plan for this car was to make everything perfect and you couldn't really argue it. And what I mean by that is, around the time when I started this is around the time when I got rid of the fake Pandem kit that I had on my BRZ. Now when I bought that Pandem kit, I didn't really understand what it meant to have a knockoff kit and why it was bad. You know, I know that sounds shocking now that we have Street Hunter and I have my own like parts business, but at the time I was only in the scene for a few years and I hadn't really learned that yet. So when I got that fake kit, I didn't even know it was fake when I bought it. It wasn't until I posted the video blew up and I got shamed everywhere and I got bullied everywhere for it. Since then we've changed it to a real kit X, Y, and Z, but right when I changed it is pretty much when we picked this car up. And I was so frustrated with people just talking so much crap on the internet. I was like, fine, I'm gonna build an FD and put every authentic piece on this car, which 90% of all FD owners, from what I am told from actual sources who only import the RE parts, all do fake parts, if that makes sense. So I was gonna build something that no one else has really done because it's just ludicrously expensive, which we'll go over. So this car means a lot to me because it was kind of like my redemption build that I was like, fine, you wanna see something that's 100% authentic that no one's ever done before and kind of go way beyond what a normal person should on an FD RX-7. So that's what I did for this. So starting from the back, we have an authentic Mazda Speed wing, which isn't tough to get, but it is an authentic wing. In the rear, we have car shop glow taillights. These taillights are very expensive. I think it's like $2,000, and they're sequential and they're LED boards, and they do a bunch of the JDM goodness and dances that everyone wants. Followed underneath it, we have the authentic RE Mamma Mia diffuser and the wing splitters on the side. This is a piece that is very, very often replicated and sold as rep pieces that a lot of people order because you can order them fake for under $1,000, and I probably paid close to $4,000 once I got that thing imported, and I paid for the extra splitters on the inside of the diffuser right here. So a lot of people copy this rear diffuser, which you can actually see right here. This on my Mark IV Supra is a exact copy of this RE diffuser that was only made for the RX-7, but because it was so popular, companies started knocking it off and offering it for a whole bunch of other cars, and it's a very popular knockoff for the Mark IV Supra. More on that later. On the side of the car, we have the authentic feed side skirt extensions. Again, another part that is often replicated because it is a very simple piece, but this is authentic and was from Final Form with the leg sport rear fender extensions. I don't know what you'd call it. Both true authentic pieces. Coming to the front, we have the RE Mamma Mia front bumper. I think it's the NT01 is what this one is called. This bumper has quite a story behind it because when I originally got it, it was all white. And a lot of people talked a bunch of crap on it because they thought it looked really ugly all white, which I agree, it did look extra heavy up front and it did look kind of weird. Now the reason why that happened is because they offer two versions of this front bumper. One bumper is this and the other bumper has these crazy canards on it. Now those crazy canards that come with it is a big slip-on piece that goes on the bumper, but it makes it black and it's carbon fiber, so it looks a lot better. Now I didn't get that piece because I didn't know the difference when I purchased it because it was all in Japanese and I just didn't know. So what I ended up doing is I took this bumper to get a carbon fiber lay on it. So all of this carbon fiber here is a lay from a company in LA. I pretty much laid carbon down so it was able to break up and give the same look but not be extra add-on, and it's a one-of-one piece. To my understanding, I don't know what else has, so I'm sure someone's done it, but that is a really cool piece. I also have authentic RE sleek headlights. There is a bunch of hate on these things. A lot of people were mad when I ditched the flip-ups, which I like the flip-ups, but in my opinion, nothing looks better than sleek lights on this front bumper with those car shop glow bumper lights. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you say, I don't care how big of a JDM fan you are, I don't care. I think this is the best look, hands down, when running this front bumper with those mirrors. Like, this is not even a question. I absolutely love them. So that being said, we have authentic car shop glow front bumper lights as well. Then followed up, we have authentic RE hood, which is full carbon fiber and it's actual full composite. So it's very badass, very expensive, all imported. So every single piece of this car was authentic. Nothing was fake, and there are fake options everywhere. I probably could have saved $20,000 by going fake options, but I didn't. So that was something that I wanted just to show. I was like, fine, you want to see something that's like all authentic? Here, I'm gonna unnecessary ball out just cause to shut everyone up. And that's pretty much what we did. And when I imported them, I paid for extra freight shipping. So if the part was like $2,000, I nearly paid 60 to 70% as much in shipping costs for each part because they were so big. When I was building this, that still wasn't enough for me. Although I just pissed away $30,000 in cosmetics that I could have spent 10 grand for, I also wanted to go one step farther. My good friend Mickey worked for Mad Mike Wadette, which is an FD driver that lives in New Zealand but does a lot of stuff in FD. Now years ago when he was driving in FD in America, Mickey was on his crew team for FD. So Mickey was really good friends, also had a good background with rotaries. So when he saw that I was doing a rotary build, he was like, TJ, you have to get a motor built by the same race shop that builds Mad Mike's motors. And I was like, I'm down. So we hop on the phone with PPRE, they're based out of New Zealand, and I told them, I want you guys to build me the nastiest single turbo 13B that you can build on the street and be reliable. Reliable is a loose word, but I wanted something that I could trust, so I wanted to drive it in Vegas and back, or X, Y, and Z. So this is a ported 13B with a massive Garrett turbo on it. When running E85, this thing makes on the upwards of 600 horsepower. Right now we're on 91, and it makes roughly around like mid 400s, but 400 horsepower is a very, very fast number when dealing with an FD, because a 90s little box car feels very, very scary with this much horsepower. They built this motor 100% custom, didn't cut any corners. I told them there is no bill with this motor. I want you to build the craziest thing you can with the best parts on it that you guys would do on a race motor that had no budget, and that's what this motor was. So they built the motor in New Zealand and then put it in a donor car. So the whole entire trans and the ECU and the motor and the cooling system was all built out of a donor car in New Zealand. And then when the motor was done, we flew out to New Zealand, got to see the car on the dyno, got to see it in the donor car. I got to drive the heart transplant in another donor car. And then once we left, they put everything in a big crate and then shipped it over to the US. It took about 2.5 months. And then when I got here, all we simply did was put it in the car, put in the ECU, put in the harness, put in the cooling system, and it was a turnkey and we were going to drive. So all that, all said and done with shipping and everything, was probably close to like $40,000 or $50,000 just for the motor work. But again, it's the only one in the US that has ever done that, and it was something I just couldn't pass up on. Going into the interior, I wanted something that was stock and clean. It didn't look like a race car. So we have all stock interior with one Haltech gauge that pretty much houses everything and every gauge and every pressure, every temperature that I could ever want, which is housed right here with the new head unit just so we can play audio. We also upgraded all the speakers on the cars so you have audio levels that sound modern. And we kept the original 5-speed, which you kind of have to be careful with because this is my 3rd or 4th trans, and the next time I blow this trans, I'm going to put the CD09 and do the adapter plate from Collins because I keep blowing through transes. But anyways, this is mapped up with AccuAir's E-level system. So in the back, we have 2 tanks that allow the compressor to sit inside the tank so it's not loud when the compressor's on, and it's on air because this front bumper is really expensive, cost me a lot of money, and as you can see, I still smack it on things, but the air allows me to kind of clear everything for the most part without having a pain in the ass. So that's why it's on air. All in all, I'm probably into this car about 100 grand or so. And big shout out to Mickey because Mickey did this build with me and he put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this build. None of this would have been possible without him, so shout out to him. We also have the Mag Blue Volks, and we have a big brake kit in the rear, and we also have the big brake kit from Willwood in the front. So one of the newest builds that is recently back on the channel is the 2020 C8 Corvette. This one means a lot to me because I actually have a lot of memories with this asshole right here.
Whoa! I'm not even supposed to be here.
Yeah, I'm talking too much. You need to come talk to me,
okay,
man. I'm like...
Okay, so...
Tell them what we did with this.
Okay, we were sitting in my room or in the office thinking about what we could do with the C8. I know for a fact TJ hates driving long distances and doing things that he's never done before.
Vegas was the longest trip I've ever done, which is a 5-hour drive.
5-hour drive, that's it. I was like, TJ, we have to send it. He kept telling me, oh, we gotta do something big. I was like, dude, cross country is the only way to do this. And we sat there for hours like calculating a route, trying to figure out who we're gonna stay with, where we're gonna stay. All of that went out the window actually, because when we got there, we met up with Mike Street Speed and we're just sitting there like, we go to the dealership. They're like, oh, it'll be here in an hour.
You got to tell them where we went. So we live in San Diego, and the only place to get this car as soon as possible, because shout out to Street Speed, because Mike, I'm gonna interrupt really quick. Mike got us on the GM list. We became a VIP GM client. We got early access. This is VIN number 16 in the whole entire world.
Okay.
So we actually got to personalize this with GM. We custom built everything. We have a nameplate inside the car, which we'll show you. But to do that, we had to go to Pennsylvania to pick this car up.
All the way on
literally the farthest
side.
point of the country. So we had to fly all the way out there to go get it.
So once we're there and we are at the dealership, they're like, oh, it'll be here in like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours roll by. We're just like, oh man, we're gonna go.
Keep in mind, it just left the factory. They're like, yeah, it should be today. No one in the world has theirs yet.
And a little caveat, they stopped it. Our truck left the gate, and right there they stopped. They're like, oh, we can't send them out. So for whatever reason, we got ours. And when we were there, it took 2 hours. We were just like, oh, where is it? And then the truck rolled up, and we saw the profile of all the C8s. We were just like, that's the truck. And funny thing is, when we were driving home, we saw the truck driver that drove our car, and we waved them down.
We saw him in Tennessee.
We saw him in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
What a crazy trip.
So Calvin and I did a cross-country trip, which standing next to Crispy and stuff, they're probably like, dude, shut the hell up. It's not even that gnarly, because they've done it like twice. It was a 40-hour drive. Originally, Calvin and I planned to do it in, I think, the course of 4 days, driving 10 hours a day. We ended up leaving the dealership, and as much as I was excited to drive it, I was also really dreading being in a sports car that's this small for 40 hours, which would have been like 4 days of driving in it. So the moment we started driving, Calvin and I were just like, nah, send it. We ended up making it home in 2 days, doing 19 hours each day. We did one night with Docked M3 in Pennsylvania, and then we went to Dallas, hung out with Evan Shanks, and then left early next morning and arrived in San Diego at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So this car is amazing because, one, this is my first time fully speccing every inch of this car. We spared no options, built it out as much as we could. This car ended up being 100 and something out the door, and it has the glass roof, competition seats, 3LT, Z51 package, square steering wheel, Alcantara, upgraded audio, front lift kit, mag ride, carbon fiber interior, and we also have, like I said, VIN number 16, and this one was also built for me, so it has my name on it, which is awesome. And then just recently, we twin turboed it with Sheepy Race, as you guys have seen in the past couple of videos, and no one has unlocked this ECU all the way yet, which means the computers are still locked. No one can able to hack into them, so no one's really able to tune them quite yet. We're running this car with spring pressure in the wastegate, which is only about 9 pounds of boost, and we are tricking the math so it doesn't freak out. So the car runs great. It's able to adapt really well, but it's not nearly at its full capability. This motor should easily make about 1,000 horsepower, and then once the ECU gets cracked, or a new standalone comes out, and then a new clutch comes out, because the clutch is slipped around 700, this should be 1,000 horsepower twin turbo V8 all day. Amazing car. This is just a really fun, cool car to me. It's kind of like the R8, does everything really, really well. You can daily it, it's extremely comfy. If you wanted an R8, but you wanted the top to go off and not the ugly Spider R8, but you know, a clean version with the convertible, that's what this car is. Very similar to the R8 in my opinion, as far as speed and looks and all that type of stuff, but the roof comes off and it's American, so it makes it badass. Want to make my way over to the 350Z. This is actually the third car I've ever owned. I owned a BMW, which I don't have anymore. Then we got the BRZ, but this is the second car that I've ever purchased for the channel. It's a 2006 350Z salvage title. I always bought it knowing I wanted to make it into a drift car. This thing has seen plenty of different versions in its life. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you definitely know what I'm talking about. It is now in its final form a pro level car that we will compete in Pro-Am at the end of this year, and then hopefully at one point make it into our Pro 2 FD. It's a full race car, not street legal, never drives on the street, fully gutted, AEM Infinity ECU, Samsonite sequential, rear mount radiator, still has a stock dip. That's the one thing limiting this car that the car needs, is it needs a winner's quick change in the back so you can adjust gear ratios and different gear speeds and all that type of stuff. So we have a 2JZ motor swap in this car. Garrett single turbo. 600 wheel horsepower on E85 at its max boost setting. It has 3 boost settings, so depending on 690 horsepower? No, 600 horsepower.
690 horse 600.
No, Calvin.
69,420 horsepower?
Nope.
Yes. So we have 3 boost settings. Wastegate spring, which makes about 400. Then we have 10 pounds of boost, which makes about 500. Then we have our 22, 23, which is what we're at, which makes about 600 wheel horsepower. This thing is amazing, and it has had plenty of different versions of itself in its lifetime, but we finally
kind of perfected its layout and are very happy with it. I recently crashed at Irwindale, so you can kind of see we just pulled out this corner and we just had a bunch of repainting, and we finally just fixed it after I wrecked it into the wall. But this is the comp car that never meant to get this gnarly, but ended up getting this gnarly. We also just got this new livery on it for the end of this season, and we have all of our partners that made this build possible. So I'm very thankful for that.
This is a great part. This is an absolutely excellent partner. If you haven't seen this partner yet, thehuntcompany.com.
Thanks for the plug, though. Thank you, though. So this is my spare motor. We blew the original one, which is now getting built bottom and a built top end. I will put in just for reliability reasons, but we will still be keeping it at the 600 horsepower mark. This is plenty of power where we're at. We need nothing more. Maybe in time when we ended up getting more power, we can turn the boost up and make that power, but of now 600 is fine, and we have spare motors, so I never blow my stuff up.
Okay, hey, don't turn
Slower than my Subaru wagon.
We're here right now, baby. We're here right now. Get the keys, Pinks. Pinks. He is actually trying to bite. He's trying to catch his hand. He doesn't want the smoke, dude. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him move slow and shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Look at those feet. Those don't even know how to shift a gear, bro. You put that, you money shift that shit all the time, I bet.
Talking about 2JZs, I think it's only fitting to jump over to my Mark IV Supra. This is a car that I've always wanted, and none of it would have been possible without the boys at Top Rank. Top Rank is an importer for international cars, and they are not only the boys, but they are also very, very good friends of mine. When I purchased this car, I got it for $55,000, and that was about 3 years ago before the prices skyrocketed, so I actually got in on these very, very early. It was a single owner with 30,000 kilometers, which is a very low mile. I also have all the original service records of this car from Japan, and I bought it 100% stock. Now, when I originally got it, I never intended on modifying it, which I think is something someone always says. But before we get to that, let me open this up and show us, because this is one of my favorite things about this car. So right here, we have some words I can't read, but this is a service record book that came with the car. Let me open it up for you guys. That has all the original documents from the 90s of servicing it. And what's amazing about all these documents is they have like these awesome animations that you would just never see in the States. I've never seen any of this stuff before. I don't know what any of it means. Maybe it means the motor was blown and they had to fix it a few times. I honestly don't know. From what I was told, this is the original motor that came with the car. I think they resprayed it once in early 2000s because the guy drove it. But this is just something that I thought was amazing. I honestly wouldn't have bought in the car on the same day I found it if it didn't have all these documents, because this is the type of stuff that like I really geek out on, and I think 20 years from now, when this car is even more rare than it is, still having these documents and keeping them in good condition is just something that I really like cherish and value. And one day when I have a bunch of little TJ Hunt ankle biters, little baby boys running around, this is a car that I'll hand off to my kids one day, and they'll have the original documents that they won't even ever know, because by that time in life, we're probably not even gonna have cars on the street anymore. So this is something that they'll be able to keep with them forever. Always thought that was really, really rad. So this spec is also the RZ edition, which is the spec you'd want when you bought the Supra in Japan. Now, because it is the imported version, this is the turbo option, but in Japan, they didn't have a Supra turbo badge like you see in the States. It just said Supra. And the RZ came with active aero in the front, which means you had a front lip that when you went over a certain miles per hour, the front lip actually dipped down and you had active aero. There's also a button right here that says spoiler, and you could either just retract it down whenever you wanted, or you could leave it on auto mode, which was mile per hour based. I've kept the interior all original except for getting rid of the RZ seats and putting in the Recaro confettis, which I think is needed because the stock seats, this car makes 700 horsepower, and with the stock seats, you were just flopping around everywhere, and this gives the 90s original vibe, but also hugs you a little more, and they're actually quite comfy, so it was a good switch, and I'm happy I did it. So under the hood, we have a 2JZ with a built head. Now it's weird, I have a built head in my street street car, but in the race car I don't. But that's actually just how reliable these JZs are if you're not familiar with them. The only reason why we built this head and not that head is because at the time that car wasn't here and I had all the head components, 272 cams and all the springs and lifters all from BC. So we went ahead and threw it in this car just to give it the extra boost and a little bit more of that cam growl that I wanted on the street. Same turbo setup on the race car as well as this car, and this one makes about 700. We're pushing a little bit more because we have the head. It allows us to push a little more while still being extremely reliable. Now, talking with authentic parts next to the FD, this car is actually quite the opposite, and it's funny how much the culture doesn't care when it's not a car that everyone else cheats on and gets rep parts for, which I always thought was very interesting. It was almost like a silent experiment that I've done on the internet just to see what would happen, and the results were shocking. So this is a Ridox style front bumper, but Ridox, I think you can still order them, but they take months and months and months to get. You'll pay a lot for them and they take 6 months to get here. And then there's another company called Shine that makes parts that aren't exactly the same, but they're styled very similar. And that's what this is right here. So this is a Ridox style from Shine Auto with the front lip. Also, these splitters or these side skirts as well are Ridox style from Shine, as well as the extensions, and then as well as the rear is a exact copy of the RE diffuser on the FD, also from Shine, and the spoiler as well is also from Shine. So it has all replica style parts, which is what majority of all Supra owners do, but yet in that community, it's not frowned on nearly as much as the FD community, which is kind of odd in my opinion. We upgraded to the 98 taillight style because we know you just got to, and this is a wheel style that isn't my first choice. We originally did HREs. No, I think we originally did the Mag Blues on this car, and then I put my HREs on this car that were on this car, and then as of recently we did the Advan GTs, which gives you a crazy like drag setup with a beefy tire in the back and a little skinny boy up front, and it gives the car a really aggressive rake, which I absolutely love. This is a car that I truly think I will keep forever, just because it has all the original documents. It is imported, it is right-hand drive, and these cars in the last 2 years have skyrocketed, and even some all original, all stock, selling at auction for over $100,000, which is double the price of what I paid for this when it was stock. While yes, this is modified X, Y, and Z, still holds a lot of value, and just the chassis alone and the interior alone and the all original X, Y, and Z has a lot of value. Don't think I'd ever sell it because I honestly want to give this to my kids one day, but something that I just love, I just don't think I'll ever be able to get rid of it. So this is a car that I've actually fallen in love with a lot, and this is something that the channel and the internet has been telling me to do for a very long time, which I honestly held off on. This is my practice car for drifting. It is the same exact setup as my 350, except it doesn't have a sequential trans, and it doesn't have a crazy motor, and it's not nearly as fast. But it is a 100% stock 370Z stock VQ with this angle and a whole bunch of cooling mods, because the VQs get terribly hot the moment you start womping on them. As you can tell, this one is not cleaned at all, and I left it dirty because this car is never clean. I often never clean it because when you go to the track, it just gets demolished, and this car just gets beat up. As you can tell, there are tire dings, there are door taps, there are front bumper taps, there are bumper scrapes, the wheels are beat up. I have Rad Dan's crash in my door. The rear fender blew out, so we have a fiberglass composite to replace it, and that's what this car is. It's never meant to look pretty. It's just meant to beat on and jam with your friends, and it's done a great job in doing that. The interior is relatively clean as well. We have a hydro, which goes to a dual caliper in the back, and a steering wheel, harnesses, and just one bucket seat. The dual caliper is something that I really enjoy rather than doing inline, and I wanted it to feel as close to my 350 as possible, so we added that in. We got bash bars on the back, and we also have a bash bar on the front. We have the Crown Carbon wide body fenders on the front, and I kept the back stock body just because less is more. I didn't want to add on spacers in the rear just for the look, because I want this thing just to be as reliable as possible, and if I can have one less part on the car and still get max performance, that's what I went for. So underneath as well, I'll show you the hood, which we burned through the hood latch line, so you have to pull it from the side. So underneath, stock VQ. I also meant to say this is a 2009 salvage title. Bought it for $8,000. I'm only in this car maybe 15 grand, and it is a awesome car and has been very, very reliable. I've had zero issues. We have an oil cooler, 34 row. We have a power steering cooler, and we have intakes, tune, And the biggest thing that helps with cooling, even with an upgraded radiator, what helps even more is an enlarged oil pan. This one is from Greddy. It allows me to have an extra quart of oil in the car. And with this motor, cooling is directly correlated with oil temps. So if your oil temps are spiking really high, your cooling temps are gonna spike really high. So it's really important to keep the oil temps down. So because I had the 34-row oil cooler plus the enlarged oil pan, so I can run up to over 2 quarts of more oil than factory, which really goes a long way when keeping temps down, because think of it as there's more surface area of the oil, which allows for better cooling properties. And getting technical on science and stuff, this does a really good job, and I don't see a lot of people doing the enlarged oil pan, so definitely do it if you have a 350Z or a 370 that gets way too hot. Also has the YFAB setup and ISR arms in the rear and stock brake setup, but with this race pads, and that's it. She's a ripper. Moving on to probably one of my most fun cars there is to drive, and that is my 2012 Lamborghini Aventador. I've always wanted this car. I never thought in life I would be able to afford this car.
We're here now, baby. We're here now, baby.
This is a car that I've wanted since 2012 when I was in high school when I first saw it. I had a few friends who had one and always got to drool over them and experience them, and it's absolutely a beast of a car. I ended up getting this in the same dealership that I used to go to when I was 8, 9 years old down here in San Diego called Symbolic Motors, which is now named O'Gara Motors. But I used to go there as a kid, take photos of all the exotics, and that was the exotic dealership in San Diego. Last year for my birthday, I actually had the honor of going to the same dealership I went to growing up that started my original passion, and I was able to buy my first exotic car. I guess the Ferrari was exotic, but buying it from a dealership and buying it just because I wanted to own it. I honestly haven't made a lot of videos on the channel with this car, and that's because I honestly just kind of got it as a present to myself. I didn't have the intention of getting this and using it a lot for content because it was more of a gift to myself for working so hard. It was something that I drive more off camera than I do on camera. And as you can tell, it's not really modified, as we're now kind of playing with some modifications. In the next month or so, you'll see all the new stuff we have coming for it. But the only things that we have done to this car is a straight pipe in the back. We have the voice shiner front lip. We just wrapped it. We have wheels on the way. We have a wing and hood and some other bits on the way. But that's pretty much it. What makes this car really fun is that it is a single clutch and it's 700 horsepower V12. So the sound is something you get from nothing else, and it drives like nothing else. It's very uncomfortable to drive. It sucks to drive it for more than 2 days because your back hurts, and it's not smooth, and it does none of that stuff well. But what it does really well is it makes you feel like you're driving an absolute race car monster on the road, and it just gives you a feeling that no other car can do. This kind of reminds me of the comparison I made with the R8. This car only does one thing really well, and it does everything else horribly. This car does not handle well. This car does not make you feel comfortable. This car doesn't have a good sound system. This car doesn't do any of that, but what it does do is it makes you feel like you're driving an absolute raging bull that no other car can replace. And for that, it makes it the most fun to drive. I don't know if it makes it my favorite because each car has its own purpose, but this purpose is when I just want to romp on it and drive something absolutely obnoxious and make me feel like I'm 9 years old again, just staring at an exotic car that I should never be able to own, but I own. I drive this car. But like I said, I can only drive this car for 2 days back to back before I'm completely over it, because it's kind of annoying to drive at slow speeds because of the single clutch. It bucks and it pulls you and it tears you around, but that's the reason why I love it. Everything else is so calm and collected, but this car's like, I'm gonna show you what it means to be fast and be aggressive and only be designed for that purpose. And this is the only car that still feels absolutely bonkers from 100 plus. Once you get to 100 miles an hour in all these cars, you have to slow down because you're going too fast or whatever. And then in that car, it's just completely calm, doesn't feel like going fast. But like the 100 to 160, 170, like is what makes this car crazy. 0 to 60 on all of his cars is insane, but the 100 to 160 on this car is insane. And that's what makes the Lamborghini Aventador the Aventador. So there's one car here that you guys are all familiar with from the start that isn't here, and that is my Subaru BRZ.
My BRZ.
Nope, not your BRZ, Cal. You sold your BRZ, remember? My BRZ is what started my channel. It is what started Calvin and I's passion to start wrenching on cars. Just recently the motor blew up and it's not here anymore, but I'll throw some clips on top so we can briefly talk about it. This is the car that started everything for me, from learning how to do an exhaust install, to coilover install, to braking things, to getting the courage to drill into a car the first time. The BRZ did it all for me. I put a rep kit on the car not knowing what I did, got torn for it, and I learned my lesson, purchased a real one, got my first set of the HREs on that car, first built motor on that car, first like turbo swap on that car, first wide body and bag on that car. That thing means a lot to me. I know a lot of you guys like that car as well. It was a lot of firsts for me, which made that car amazing, and I'll never go to that car ever. So unfortunately, it's not here, but that car for me is just a placeholder as like the passion that planted it all. If I never purchased that car, and if I never had it, none of these cars behind me would ever be here, because that's the car that built my success. But without that car, without you guys watching me learn on that car, I would not be here. So that car means a lot to me. I wish it was here. We probably won't have it till like December until everything gets rebuilt. It's gonna be gone for a bit, but when it comes back, it will come back better than ever. Lastly, I have Big Bertha. Big Bertha here is amazing because she does one job really well, and that's get you from point A to point B with comfort. It is the 2020 2500 HD High Country diesel. It makes something like 800 or 900 foot-pounds of torque. It has Wi-Fi, it has wireless charging, it has a bunch of features that none of my other cars have, and it is a mobile workstation. It's able to tow up to like 20-something thousand pounds without having a gooseneck. You can fit a 6'5" dude in the back very comfortably, and it's, like I said, a mobile workstation. When we're doing a long drive or I'm behind on something, Calvin can drive this. I can hook up to the Wi-Fi, I can edit videos, upload them. It's super fast, and it has all the luxury features that you have in your office that you can have right here. It has stuff like actual wall plugins to a million different plugins for all sorts of things, so everyone could be satisfied in this car, and the Wi-Fi can hold tons of people on it. I left this car dirty as well because this is one car that is never really clean. It goes to the track all the time. It gets used by people who work and help pack for Hunting Company, throwing orders in the back. It has the extended bed so you can fit a million things on it. This thing is just the workhorse of the whole entire fleet. And the reason why it's not modified, because there's a lot of people who ask me to modify it, is because I never want this thing to ever have an issue. I probably have my friends drive this car more than I do myself. It's responsible for getting a bunch of like work responsibilities done that if it was tuned or had an exhaust and was loud, I just wouldn't feel as comfortable having other people drive it all the time, because I just need it to work no matter what and never have any reliability issues. That being said, we have a few things on the car, and that is the Icon suspension. The Icon leveling kit is amazing. It has dampening adjustments in the front and in the rear, and it was able to level out the height. I could jack the car up, make it a little bit taller. But like I said, the girls drive this car more than I do, and this is already a really big car for them, so I don't really want to make it any more difficult for them. And then we have the fuel wheels with the open country Toyos on there, giving it that mean off-road look that I do like. A lot of people don't like this 2020 2500, but I love it. I've always loved it, and I love the new styling, and I can't wait for the new gen to come out, because every time the new trucks come out, that's something I always go in, get rid of this one, and get a new one, just because I like having the newest, because these things have technology that none of these other cars have that I just like adore. So that's what makes this thing amazing, is it's just the workhorse, it's the bus of the fleet. It's a little rough around the edges because I'm not the one who's always driving it, but that's its purpose, that's his job, that's his destiny. And I'm okay with that, and it's very dirty.
My car now. Hey, you got all these cars and nobody to drive them. Guess what? I'm a body, and I need a car. So if you got me the 10-second, give it here, bud.
You can drive it back. It will probably go into limp mode. We had it working last night, but I don't believe it.
It's so sleeper, dude.
I don't believe it's ready yet.
Wait, what? Why would it go into limp mode?
You weren't here all day the other day, okay?
Yeah, you look like you had fun yesterday. I was.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was also a headache.
Yeah. What were you guys doing, you and Amelia?
We were trying to trick the system to stop freaking out and going into limp mode. We were trying to figure it out. It was a bunch of random work. Well, this was a really fun video. I was looking forward to making it. This is the first time I've literally had all of my cars out like this. Fortunately, not everything is here, but majority is here, which made it worth it for me to film this. If you guys haven't already, you could subscribe to my channel to see builds ongoing with all of these cars and ongoing builds that we have coming this year. We make videos 3 to 5 times a week, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like, because this video was a lot of work to get all these cars out here, and it was a lot of time to edit this because I know this video is extremely long, so I wanted to really make it kind of improv and kind of shared little bits and pieces about this car. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I will see you in the next one. Peace out and keep moving forward.